Well, hey there, hi there, ho there, folks. It's Joe. And I thought it would just be easier instead of spending my entire days online writing to individuals and things like that to just do videos of what it is that endeavoring. And what I've been endeavoring is the Sioux pipeline, the Dakota Access pipeline. I've been immersed in this, and let me tell you, folks, this has gotten way, way out of hand. There are reports now that even a 15-year-old boy and his horse were executed. They're arresting people providing medical aid. They're arresting journalists. All of this is highly, highly illegal and unconstitutional. And so I just want to read you what I sent to the Sioux tribes today. It says, "It's obvious that divide and conquer is the cornerstone of the establishment. They can do nothing without fear and intimidation, which only ultimately demonstrates weakness. They want to fight, and will get one any way they can, just to justify protecting their resources from all the useless eaters they deem us to be, if nothing else. All they are trying to do is anger people into war about our differences and two-dimensional false paradigms as a distraction from the core issues. It's obvious that war is big business and is never going to end so long as it is profitable. They want silent, obedient, complacent consent, not spiritually enlightened, critically independent thinkers, and certainly not an educated and informed constitutional republic. I cannot begin to cite the constitutional and common law violations being perpetrated on these people for pleasure, profit, and personal safety. We expect better than this from law enforcement, who have proven absolute ignorance of constitutional and common law, which thus makes them little more than an illegal standing army. The media will only report what they are told to report by the same big oil masters suppressing renewable energy technologies and lining the pockets of our corrupt courts and officials. Even our Supreme Court has ruled that the media does not have to be based on facts. Renewable energy would have avoided this whole issue. If they built a wind, solar, or hydroelectric energy plant, do you think any of this would have occurred? This is why they are arresting independent journalists in violation of supreme laws, jamming communications, arresting medical workers, providing aid, and enacting illegal acts of war and murder on indigenous lands and people, yet again. They want silence. If you don't think that your voice is powerful, then I cordially invite you to say anything contradictory in the face of the establishment. Better yet, say nothing at all and see how far the Fifth Amendment, your right to remain silent, gets you. If you still think that small, singular things aren't powerful, then I invite you to try and sleep with a single mosquito in the room. They are merely enforcing what the establishment has paid for. What they paid for is oil. This in itself is provable corruption by simply following the breadcrumbs of the money spent to enforce their agendas. It is also cause to relieve the entire sheriff's department and local state governments. Who is paying for all of this? Did we the people assemble and decide to deploy armed opposition in the face of domestic threats? Should we now, in the face of formidable threats by privatized police and corrupt governments? Is there any form of lawful common law assembly left in this nation? Is it time to mobilize our National Guard and militias to protect the people and the sovereignty of our nation? Have we the people somehow complacently relinquished our fundamental rights to self-govern? Have we lost our voice as well as the rule of law already? Law enforcement are supposed to remain non-biased to keep the peace and allow the courts to administrate justice based on the legal premise of do no harm, necessary force, and innocent until proven guilty by a common law court, not threaten with militarized force, fabricate evidence for use of that force, by kidnapping and arresting protesters without evidence of corpus delicti, which is damage to persons or property, i.e. crime, merely defending themselves and upholding their rights to peacefully assemble in protest or otherwise, while acting as judges, juries, and executioners. Where are the oath keepers in all of this? This is all being done without due process of law, which is de facto absent from law in itself. This is an illegal occupation by agent provocateurs who work for private corporations masquerading as law enforcement who could care less about the rule of law. This is not meant to slander law enforcement, rather to state the facts in the decay of the same. They simply are not taught constitutional or common law and instead are taught UCC, maritime admiralty, policy, or administrative corporate variants of law under color of the same. They have been privatized by corporations, which I assure you will come as shock to many officers upon learning this fact for the first time. This is a failure on behalf of we the people. to administrate justice and to educate and appoint competent officials and peace officers instead of corporatized police and executive administrators for banks we call judges and let pass as judicial officials. Frankly, we get what we tolerate, folks. They are pawns to the establishment, and it's a shame that brave men and women are tasked with cleaning up the messes created by their corporate masters without the equal protections of the common law. The real threat is the oil-drunk establishment, who signs the paychecks for all the guns, bombs, drones, dogs, tanks, bullets, and otherwise armaments they need to create a system of fear and control to be deployed against us or anyone they deem to be a threat with the flick of a pen. We have long been told is mightier than the sword. Let them build their own pipeline and defend their own honor if they can, and pull our first responders out of this mess immediately. In any occupation, communications and infrastructures are the first to go. Their hope is to bury reports and pawn this off through winter to freeze and starve out the opposition. Your right to life also includes the right to domicile, which is your right to dwell, and to travel freely and unrestricted. Filming and reporting is also permitted as a First Amendment guaranteed protection. An unalienable right means that it was not given by, nor can it be taken by man. Natives, as well as all people, have these rights based on the legal premise that all men are created equal and endowed by our Creator with unalienable rights. They are arresting people for praying, folks. If you don't know that freedom of religion and the practice thereof are the literal foundation blocks of our constitutional rights, then I'm afraid there is little hope for any of us in preserving the same. I don't want to hear the plausibly deniable statement of, "I'm just doing my job." That does not magically dissolve or exonerate anyone from blame, nor does ignorance equal an excuse for the law. The Nazis had a job to do as well, and it didn't turn out too good for them, did it? Furthermore, the statement is inaccurate. As to do one's job in law enforcement, one must be learned in law, which clearly, by demonstration, they are not. I don't want to hear, "I'm just following orders" either. I have 11.5 years of federal service and never once upheld an illegal order. Impeach the sheriff on grounds of incompetence of law, and demand that all law enforcement uphold and reaffirm their oaths of office to defend the people and the Constitution, and administrate an exam that must be passed, testing constitutional and common law knowledge prior to reinstatement or receiving a badge to enforce it. Issue cease and desist orders to all agents and fire them if necessary, and install guards until complete. This has been done and can be done again. A well-regulated militia is a guaranteed right and is also defined as duty in the face of evil. Water is life, and life is protected by natural, supreme constitutional, and universal law. No law or no law. It is not enough to simply know law, for to know law is to be morally tasked with the duty of defending it. What rights, if any, can persist to the likes of which we cannot defend? It is a proud day for our nation, and its many strong and colorful inhabitants standing together in civil, peaceful defense in the face of overwhelming oppression. I view the actions of the people at Standing Rock to be in keeping with the highest standards of humanity, courage, and the true spirit of liberty that burns in us all. I stand with Standing Rock and pray for a peace that surpasses understanding. United we stand, divided we fall. Sincerely and respectfully, Defense or Fidei. And so, that's my thoughts on the matter. It's mainly pertaining to constitutionality of this whole issue. I mean, you have literal privatized police forces arresting people, kidnapping people through illegal acts of war, shooting them in the face with rubber bullets, using LRAD systems, which are those acoustic devices blowing out their eardrums, sicking dogs on them, macing people who are standing there praying, conducting illegal raids, unconstitutional searches and seizures without warrants, going in, ripping open teepees, tearing down tents, running people off, putting up roadblocks, flying drones, blockading communications, blockading aid, supplies, trying to get to these people. They're actually turning away supplies. Okay, folks, this is unconstitutional. Okay, if you don't know that it is unconstitutional, please get an education. Ask me. Don't take my advice for, at face value here. Do your own research. Figure this stuff out for yourself. Because here's the thing, folks. If they'll do this again to an indigenous people, how much more are they willing to do to you? How much more they are doing to you furthermore? And I'm here to tell you right now that if no one will defend the law, well, then there is no law. So let that be food for thought. And I ask you to stand with these people. And, silence in a way in this matter is consent, okay? We need to stand up. We need to unite, and we need to at least defend the basic fundamental premise of law, which is your right to freedom of expression, your right to freedom of religion. We cannot allow unconstitutional acts of war, and that's what they are. And anybody who thinks differently is cordially invited to debate me. Have a good day.